Hi and welcome to today's reading, chapter 2, second reading in the book Orgasmic Blueprint, Tools for Pleasure, Desire and Consent for Individuals, for couples and intimacy professionals. So I hope you have enjoyed so far the reading and continue listening. Okay, let's get started. The foundational base of self-love, self-care, and self-pleasure. Oops, self-care. I need to sit more comfortable. Being attuned to oneself is a foundation of harmony in all other relationships. That's from a quote from Dr. Paul V.T. Wong. Within relationships, dynamics between people, the base of the pyramid structure stands for the foundation of personal rights and self-responsibility. So you take responsibility for your personal base through self-care. You care for your own body, thoughts and beliefs, feelings and emotions, wants and desires, boundaries and limits. And you understand clearly that this is your job alone and nobody else, and that you gain autonomy, sovereignty and empowerment through it. If you rely on someone else to take care of your rights and responsibility, you give away your personal power to them. To some it might seem daunting to have to take care of themselves the whole time, but this isn't about doing it alone, secluding yourself from others, being strictly independent or totally self-sufficient. And here's the base map. Whoops, that's the map. And you find the link somewhere here in the video and as well in the video description. So when you look at the base map, imagine you're viewing it in the first person. So you is the first person, them means the person you are engaging with. So the base map demonstrates how to relate healthy with yourself, and it's about knowing yourself and your rights and taking adult responsibility. This gives you the safe and sturdy foundation on which to build and enrich your relationship with others. If your base is intact, you function from a centered, grounded, empathic and empowered place. So you have to be connected to your inner world to have a solid base, and this begins with tuning into your somatic inflow, so waking up the hands and the sensory awareness. Then you always know the difference between the direct and indirect route when engaging with other people, touching and being touched. So recap, the direct route of receiving pleasure happens when you are tuned into fully awareness of the sensory information coming into your own body when you touch another person or are being touched, or it orientates you to how you feel in the moment, greatly raising your awareness and your ability to speak up about your needs, desires and limits. The indirect route is when your sense of receiving pleasure is dependent on the other person's reaction when you touch them or vice versa. If you're stuck in the indirect route dynamic, you won't be fully in tune with your own feelings, but rather be feeding yourself through anyone's feelings. That makes your base unstable. Each person needs to have a strong connection to their base, where they operate from, to know what their moment-to-moment needs are, to know when they're hungry, thirsty, tired, too cold, emotionally irritated, and need to be alone, need a hug, or whatever the present need might be. When you notice the direct route, your general awareness increases, and then as this becomes more and more embodied, somatic inflow becomes the norm, constantly bringing you back into your own body, gradually becoming stable, default and intuitive setting, guiding you in the direction of self-responsibility and self-care. Usually when we are alone, it's easy to focus on self-care. We enjoy our own company, doing what feels right, and when we are with others, however, especially if with many people, we are constantly considering how to engage and tend to tiptoe around other people's needs without fully acknowledging our own. Without being grounded in self-care and having a steady base, it's very easy to drop into the world of shadow dynamics. These are the survival strategies we use, such as specific words or behavior we default to get our needs met. And I'm sure we'll all have experienced this to some extent when we go beyond our own boundaries to please the others, or we experience pleasing behavior from them, or we push others to fulfill our wishes. And what happens then? We blame, resent, and react badly to each other, instead of realizing that we have created the situation ourselves by not being connected to our own needs, or by taking responsibility for them. It's especially easy to get lost in the indirect route and the story when you begin a new relationship. Have you ever been in a situation based on telepathic agreements and assumption-based relating? I did. How did that go for you? When I was in my 20s, I went head first into a relationship that was built entirely on assumption. It all started when I helped a girl I cared about to move house, assuming I wanted a deeper relationship with her. She invited me around for dinner, which led us to being intimate and me moving in with her. This hadn't been my intention at all, but I jumped at the chance to sleep with her, and one thing led to another. Neither of us discussed what we wanted, nor took responsibility for our own self-care. I was thrilled by the notion of being wanted, but was never clear about my intentions. We both assumed what the other needs and desires were, which led to all sorts of unspoken expectation, guilt, misdirected actions, and resentments. We argued often and split after a short time. I'm sure most of us have been in similar situations where we only guess at what each other wants, don't take care of our own basic self-care, and base relationship purely on assumptions. This lack of honesty and self and others is a breeding ground for shadow behavior. Been there, done that. We'll go into the juice topic of shadow relating in much more detail soon in the book. The bottom line is, when connected to your base, you can easily determine if an action between two people is for you or for them. This enables you to relate in an inner interdependent manner with respect, equality, and balance, free from false expectation and the disappointment that comes from that. You neither remain independent or cut off from others, nor depend on others to fulfill your everyday needs, but wonderfully interdependent. You're grounded in self and function in relationships with others from a place of maturity. Here, genuine intimacy and connection becomes really possible. Do you notice when it's time to take care of yourself and say no to something that would deplete your energy in those moments? Exploring boundaries and limits. Boundaries are to protect life, not to limit pleasure. That's a quote from Edwin Lewis Cole. Everybody has boundaries, which starts with a physical level. And as the skin of your body, your boundaries also describe the extent to which you are comfortable with in any given situation. In the pyramid diagram, the edges of your base define your boundaries. On a personal level, cross boundaries are literally an indicator for people to notice, here's something I'm not comfortable with, okay, I need to take care of myself. Acknowledging and communicating your boundaries requires you to know what you don't want and be able to communicate that. If we don't know what we have a right to and responsibility for, our boundaries can easily be crossed, although at times, paradoxically, it helps if your boundaries are crossed so that we're able to comprehend them and establishing our limits. A limit is the communicated line you draw which says words to the effect of, I'm willing to go until here with you and no further. When two people engage, the level of encounters is largely based on cultural conditioning and how we've been taught we should behave with each other. General rules are how to behave, never work. Or individual experiences throughout life guarantee that each person and their perception is unique, and so that one person feels comfortable with, another may not. Everyone has a right to how they feel. So let's look at an analogy about boundaries that most people can relate to. Have you ever, while eating a bag of chips, had someone reach into it without asking? Yeah. How did you feel and what did you do? It isn't such a big deal, right? Or is it? So here are you with your bag of chips. You might feel a little splinter of discomfort not being asked first because you have a boundary, right? You might worry the other person will gobble up too many or dislike the idea of their hands in your food. Maybe you label that person as impolite or lacking respect. Maybe you think it's too little a thing to make a fuss about to risk being judged as stingy. You probably have noticing against sharing. Probably you have nothing against sharing. In fact, sharing is a wonderful feeling of our terms. But somebody sticking their hands into your bag of chips without permission crossed your boundaries. It reveals pre-assumptionist behavior and a sense of entitlement. It can bring up resentment at having the choice to share taken away from you. Being asked allows the space for you to respond from a place of genuine generosity. It's entirely up to you if and how you share what's yours, crisps or otherwise. If nobody is asking for permission, be sure you know your boundaries. Can you decide to eat your chips alone? You can move the bag away when someone reaches into it without permission. You can go and get a bowl and share exactly the amount you want to. You can express your boundaries and say no in an appropriate way, or you can ignore your boundaries, allow them to be crossed and get resentful. No permission or agreement leads to unclear boundaries. If there is no communicated permission or agreement, it's very difficult to know where the other's boundaries are. This is a shaky ground, as we might this is a hard word I have chosen here. As we might unwittingly interfere in someone else's space. When we give our advice to someone without their permission or presume we can do whatever feels right for us, we might cross their boundaries without meaning to. Acting without permission and giving unsolicited advice, however helpful your intentions are, can be translated as dictating what's good for the other to think, believe, do, not do, what to feel or not to feel. Has anyone ever tried to tell you what to feel, think, say or do? How did you feel about that? Have you ever told others what to feel, think, say or do, and how did they react? One of the most commonly breaches boundary is to tell another person who they are. You're selfish, lazy, annoying, negative, controlling, to this, to that, or not fast, tidy, positive, spiritual, and you can all fill the blank. How can we possibly know who someone is when we don't know ourselves in totality, unless someone specifically asks for our opinion on them? Doing so lies wholly within the realm of unsolicited, pre-assumptive, pretty shallow, one-sided perception. We can only know about ourselves, and we can only know how we feel and what is good or not good for us. Imagine hearing the following two statements and notice how different they feel. You're too pushy. When you say that, I feel pressurized and nervous. Telling someone else who they are from our perspective is like a quack doctor's diagnostic and rarely feels good or ring true to the other. We'll talk about this dynamics in more depth in the relationship map. A healthy level of engagement is, at its core, based on the agreement we have with each other. We can't be based on assumption, a telepathic agreement, but one what is agreed upon, what both want within each person's limits. For now that when you can maintain a solid connection to your base, you'll be aware of your needs, be able to communicate them, and in this way, open the possibility for intimate interpersonal experiences. In other words, you'll have a strong foundation on which to build healthy relationships in your life. Okay, that was it for today. That was about the base, your foundation. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so. Please write comments and questions in the section below. I will personally answer them or write another comment to it. Thanks for being here today and listening. And self-love, self-care is your base. So love yourself and have a wonderful evening. Maybe take a bath or walk in nature, something that's good for you. All right. Thank you for listening and seeing you tomorrow. Bye.